Retro Car Guy 530 LLC presents the Chevrolet SSR Tech Session discussions that took place in San Jose, California on Saturday, August 25th, 2018. The main presenter for this Tech Session discussion was Dick Belleville, also known as Dictator on the SSRfanatic.com website. All opinions expressed in this video are made by the person that makes them, and they are not necessarily the opinions of Retro Car Guy 530 LLC. In this video's description below the video, you'll find that there are links to the various topics within this video, and there will also be a link to Dick Belleville's Microsoft OneDrive Chevy SSR Tech Library, a wealth of information that you should check out if you're an SSR owner. You are advised to review all documentation supplied with any part obtained for your vehicle. Make sure you clearly understand the installation instructions and follow them carefully. Please review the automotive information, repair, and modification guidelines on this screen. Seek the advice of a repair professional if you're unsure how to perform any repair or modification safely and correctly. All repairs and modifications are performed at your own risk.
When you go from the 04 to the 05, the 05-06 has got 200 times more software than the 03-04. Ours is kind of a shade tree truck, you know, compared to the 05-06. You know, something that you can fix yourself. Then in 06, they were getting ready to do the 864 cylinder drop.
Yeah.
So they changed where they,
They changed some of the software to handle that.
Yeah, they were going to
Switch
go
on
to,
demand.
you know, you're driving down the road 8 cylinders, then it drops to 6.4. So they were changing the software is changed for the
gears, you mean, so you get
no
better
where it
balance?
locks up. Come on, guys.
Where
Torque converter.
oh,
Thank you,
Torque
torque converter. They changed that, so an 06 is actually quicker off the line than changing gears, because with the 864 computer software, they have to hook up the torque converter before the cylinders come on. Otherwise, they'll tear up everything if they let the cylinders come on first. And this thing's still for the 6-cylinder or 4-cylinder, so they changed that. So theoretically, the 06s are a little quicker than the 05. So I have an 04 5.3 liter, and I put the 14 gears in it, because I looked at the 05s, and you know, if I put on a magnet charger, I get 100 more horsepower, let's say, and I got 300 and they got 400, and they wanted 7-8 grand or something to put on a magnet charger, and I go, well, wait a minute, I put 14 gears in, you know, for $500 and have Jeremy tune it.
For
$500.
Yeah, you're not in California.
What? Yeah.
Not around here.
1,800 for an 03.
Oh, God.
The 03 is oddly enough
Anyway.
more than the 05s.
Anyway, then I had Jeremy tune it. Mine was the first SSR he ever tuned. He does Corvette tuning, you know. So he tuned it. Now, poor Jeff-Fanatic with his 05, all stock, side by side, he's got 100 more horsepower. He can't get away from me. I mean, up in. But I'm saying, you know, so I changed mine for $1,000, not $7,000, and I was equipped to a stock. I'm not talking about one that's tuned or anything, but a stock one, you know. So I'm just being El Cheapo. I didn't want to, you know, so I stuck with it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Thank you.
Not at all.
And my wife will agree.
I'm so extravagant. I've had Joe tune both of mine.
Yeah,
That's
it's awesome. Yeah,
do
it makes such a difference. Well, they did it for emissions, guys.
Yeah.
That's what they did it for,
Yeah.
emissions.
Yeah.
But I said, and I want to emphasize, it's not the dealer's fault. They can't change it.
Right.
They legally can't
Can't
change
do
it.
I keep waiting for somebody hoping that somebody will ask me what I have in mind, and I can answer my foot.
Yeah.
because then it takes you back now to the ignition switch. Now, the original ignition switch wasn't worth, so when they changed the ignition switch, they changed the points to tungsten, I think it is, different point material anyway. There's 5 sets of points in there like we used to run in our old distributors. Okay, and we used to take a fingernail file that sucker and take a book match cover and gap it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you got in your ignition switch. The only problem is you got 12 volts coming into your ignition switch, and it must see 9 volts for everything to work right. And what happened was those points were burning and arcing and making a bridge in there. Well, that in itself, like in the old days, would have been okay, but we're talking to a computer. So this voltage that you're getting in there, DC direct from the battery, if it's not sending the right signal to the computer, your engine control module, then it's not going to work. So that ignition switch, and you've seen me put it on, everything goes through the ignition switch. Well, and that's
Ignition switch every couple of years.
the AC Delco, D1426D ignition switch that we use. There's some knockoffs out there that, it may be the old style or something. Because what GM did was kept the same number, the D1426D, but all they did was change one of the panels from black to gray. And that's the only way you can tell it's an upgraded.
Everything else, they leave it looking the same and they
Right.
change the number on it.
Right.
This one, they
Thank
changed
you, yeah. They
changed the
that.
looks and left the numbers
Because
the
when
same.
that ignition switch starts to go bad, you'll have it, like I said earlier, it won't shift from one gear to the next. The windows will all of a sudden go down by themselves, all kinds of stuff. And years ago, I'm talking 12 years ago, when we were having this fuse box problem on the engines for the 05, 06s, which we didn't even know what was going on, and the dealer didn't either. And the dealer was putting on new engine fuse boxes
And not knowing why.
and not knowing why, and they didn't get them. You can't get them now. It's a Trailblazer block. What they did was you remember me talking about the CAD and we're pulling down stuff that fit. They used the Trailblazer engine fuse box, and they said, okay, how are we going to run the radio and the fan and the roof and all these amplifiers and all this other stuff? Well, I thought it was a smart move. They made another fuse box, which they put behind the passenger seat in the console. And that's what drives everything else, because you got a 125 amp fuse in the front of your engine fuse box.
That do not jump point.
Pardon?
That do not jump point.
That's do not jump point. And I think this Quickie Lube or whatever, I don't know what put to the rear fuse box, but they certainly, you've got 2 red wires. One red wire, the big one, goes to the rear fuse box. The one the closest to the fender, which is the smaller one, is what is your engine fuse box. That's the one you use to jump, not the other one, because that's on the other side of the
Use the jump
125.
box.
Or you can use the jump box. The problem is using the jump box. I have one of those little that I got, like at SEMA, one of those little electronic ones that work great on jumping, but it won't reach that red fuse box.
You don't have to.
Just go to
I've got
the,
one.
go
Just
to the
go to
ocean.
the clamp on the tensioner where it bolts for the
Well,
engine.
I go to the alternator where it's got the ground.
Well, but I
And
mean,
it's right
over on
next-
the other side,
Yeah, well, I don't go.
it's just right there.
I don't go. I'm just telling you what I do.
Yeah.
I go to that red wire, the closest to the fender, in the alternator where the ground is, and zoom, it starts. Short, quick, and it works. So, anyway, if the 125 amps starts getting intermittent, you will find all kinds of crazy shit going on. The windows won't go up and down. It won't shift from third to four in the automatic. I mean, crazy stuff will go on.
Seems to be a lot of
Which-
that this last couple of weeks, actually, on the forum, gremlins like.
Yeah,
Right.
well, yeah, in fact,
And when you read it first, it seems like, well, it's probably the '05 fuse box, but
No,
then it's
it's
not
not.
always that.
Well, the guy that was on the other day before I flew out here, I told him it's your 125 amp fuse because everything, your blower motor, your radio, your roof, there's all kinds of stuff run by that rear fuse box. What's smart on GM's? They kept the engine fuse box for the engine, and they used this fuse box to run all the other stuff. Okay, which to me made sense. And of course, you guys know that if you leave anything plugged into those receptacles, one on each side of the radio in the rear, and you leave them plugged in, and you go to sleep in the morning, your battery will be dead. You know.
My wife learned that one.
Yeah, gotta know that stuff, you know? And that's very important because there's a lot of wire, all your electric for the roof is on the passenger side. Your rear fuse box. We had a dealer, it wasn't a dealer, it was one of these quick lube type places.
Quickie Lube,
Yeah, well,
Jiffy Lube.
yeah, it was one of those places that got
Never
into
go there.
one of our guys' unit, and he was having trouble with it, and I don't know whether they put 220 volts to it or what, but they blew out the rear fuse box because you've got.
Why you even let somebody like that even look at the car?
Exactly. What were they doing with it?
Well, you know, they finally called me, and we went over to try and we isolated it to the rear fuse box, but I've never seen a rear fuse box go bad. I mean, you know, guys, it just plugs in. That said, as your trucks get older, you should take your 7mm ratchet and just torque those three, because all of these points have been sitting in the same spot for 14 years.
Right.
And you get electrolysis and you don't get a good connection. So just loosen it a couple of turns and retighten it to reset because both the engine and the rear fuse box, all your big main connectors are pulled on by a bolt. And this bolt pulls them on and locks them into the connector.
Are you talking about those,
The
what'd you
three
say,
silver.
Yeah,
three silver ones that hold the two pieces together?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's what pulls your back.
So back
connector.
them off and then tighten
Well,
them.
just back them off a couple of turns and tighten it back
Yeah,
up.
don't back them
And-
off too far. Because,
Yeah.
Because if there's any tension on that plug on the back, that's what you're pulling in, that's
Yeah.
clamping things together. But if that gets a little tweaked, and one of those pins gets
And you bend it.
bent, then you're really in trouble.
Uh-huh.
You could be, yeah.
That sounds like me.
So Art Bonadise and Marty, who are into, they're both retired now, they were into high-speed photography. They're the guys that take a picture of the bullet in the air. So they said, we're gonna figure out what the hell's the matter. They live over on the east coast of Florida. They're known as the Florida Mafia. You guys have probably seen them. You know, the East Coast Mafia. So because they have an oscilloscope, and they said we're going to simulate the same conditions that occurs underneath the hood of an SSR. So they took the fuse box and they set it up. There's 4 quadrants, so 4 quadrants in your fuse box. You know, each. So you got 4 connectors on the bottom. So they separated those 4 connectors on the oscilloscope so they could measure it. And then they put it in a box, and they started from normal room temperature and raising the temperature in that box to see what's occurring. And everything was at 12 volts. All 4 of them were nice. And then all of a sudden, quadrant 3 went to 3 volts. I said, what the hell's going on? So they did it again, did the same thing. So they got into the quadrant 3, which was by itself, and they started researching it under a microscope. And guess what? They found the broken wire.
So this wasn't Ed that did this, this was.
Not Ed Borland, no. This was Art Bonadies and Marty over on the other coast. And they're the ones that get credit for it. So what happens is, as this box made out of plastic heats up, it expands. And when it expands, it separates the wire. Go ahead, see if you got another picture.
But the only reason that it separates the wire is because the wire was
the
trimmed.
wire is already broken.
Right.
And we concluded, and we don't know if we're right, we concluded that during manufacturing, it's like a sewing machine that presses those wires down into place. That was our logical guess. And what happened is right in that particular bend, the machine had too much pressure. It was
And
too sharp.
it distorted the wire. You can see it in
Yeah,
the pictures
because
if
it's
you look
punching,
real close.
yeah, it punches it in.
It weakened it.
So they found that, so go ahead and see if it shows the root. What I do, and I'm doing most of the fuse boxes now because Art Bonadi's been fighting cancer, he's doing much better. Anyway, I run a whole new line in a straight line. I don't, I go from this terminal down, straight across and down. No bends and, no bends and turns. And it's 22 gauge wire. And just run it down around the corner. And it's fine, and nothing separates. So we started repairing.
Would you just shove it down in there with like a screwdriver or what?
Well, you don't use it. Yeah, kind of, sort of. You just drag it in there. The 22
wedge it
gauge
in.
wire, you can just press it down in there with your finger down.
Ah.
And, just make a turn and down. And it has to be tucked at the terminal.
Why did they put all the bends in it?
Well, because it's made for more than one truck. Trailblazer, Avalanche, Malibu, what have you.
It's
Different applications.
Yes, thank you.
universal application. It's a universal printed circuit. Okay. Got it.
And then it's just depending which terminal they hook it up to.
And really too, all those bends,
Yeah.
those are the weakest points.
Well, I'm sure
right?
they are.
I mean, that's just the way it works.
Yeah. Keep going, can you go any more? Yeah, stop right here. See this 25 amp, this is a 125 amp fuse. This is the one that runs to the rear fuse box. The other one is up there. See if there's another one. Yeah, see the one that's closest to the fender is the one that goes to your rear battery. And this one goes to the rear fuse box. So if you're having problems, like the bore or whatever, try jumping that pair of pliers, just jump it and see if everything starts working again. If it is, you know it's a 125 amp fuse. Just bypass a piece of wire, whatever you want to use.
And somebody said they took that fuse and they put a voltmeter across it, voltometer, and it showed good. But it was showing good at low current.
Low voltage, yeah, low current.
And that fuse will separate itself under high current and not necessarily
Keep going
It
down.
heats up and the current draws through it.
Yeah, go ahead.
show up on a voltmeter.
No, go ahead. I wanted to show. See, these are the connectors that sit in their own little pocket underneath the printed circuit board where all your relays and fuses are. So when you ship it to me, I just need I don't need the fuses. And, if you have a problem and you need one repaired, don't ship me all that stuff. I don't need that. I just need that center one. And we have to take that apart. But here's the bottom ones, and this is where the screws, just like the rear compartment, go down through, and they actually have a metal nut, if you will, in there that pulls that whole box up onto the bottom of your fuses and relays. So you wanna make sure it's tight. When you're in your engine fuse box, check it, tighten it, change them. They've been sitting there for 14 years, they get, see them? There they are, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Just loosen them and retighten them?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Blow them out or something?
no, you don't have, no,
No, you can't get to those connectors. I mean, if you don't pull that fuse block out,
yeah,
you can't get those connectors
right,
loose.
you gotta take everything out, cause there's some other connectors in the back that plug in. See, there's other connectors too that plug in.
But you see the arrows are pointing to the screws
Yes.
that drop into those. Those
That's
are the bolts.
correct.
Goes right in those.
Thank you, yes, that's correct. You could probably turn those lights down a little bit, you could see better. I don't know how it's screwed this up, but-
Just touch the one blue one
Yeah.
Perfect.
Is that better?
It's a miracle.
Yeah, I'm
We've
curious.
been saved.
there. I can see. Now you can see this.
Keep going. You can see how they sit all together here in these four. And what they do is they pull it up. All of these that you see sticking down there are your relays and fuses. Now these are like 60 amp fuses. And you've got some 40 amp fuses
The green ones.
on the other end. And if you have a trouble with your fan motor, it could be one of those. Your truck won't start, it could be one of those. Those heavy amp.
And for while you're there, there's it's on the other end of the fuse block though. Yeah, up beyond those green fuses, there's a bunch of slots that look like you could put fuses in them. They don't do anything.
Nope.
Put spare fuses.
You could put some spares in there, yeah. Yes,
Because then
that's
you
a
can,
good-
you can put one or two of each of the fuses, so you've always got the right value.
Yeah. Now here's, this wire is for the rear fuse box. This wire is for the battery. And there's your 125 amp fuse that goes across. And you will be surprised what the rear fuse box runs. It runs a lot of stuff.
There, you can see on the right
Yeah,
hand side, you see those 7 holes?
See,
Oh, yeah, okay.
just sticks them.
There's
yeah.
no connectors
no
to it.
There's no
connectors
connectors,
there.
it's
They're just,
But
Yeah.
it's the same size hole,
But you
so
can,
the fuses will just sit in there.
but you can see from the fuse box that it's used for several different trucks depending what the options are.
and when you say, when you're talking about the rear fuse box, you're talking about the one behind the passenger seat.
Yes, and we have that up here too. It's not on this one.
Take a hammer to it.
Well, you got to.
It doesn't work, hit it with
Yeah,
a
of course.
hammer, that's
Right.
my business.
What you
That
gotta
doesn't work,
do
get a
is-
bigger hammer.
You gotta drive those bolts out of there. Go ahead. It's a spring-loaded clip,
Okay.
and they just,
They're gone.
they're gone, just tip them out of there. And it goes into this spring-loaded, and that's what keeps it down there so that you won't supposedly lose them.
I wonder if GM has those bolts still.
You couldn't get them. I had one customer, one SSR guy, drilled the whole damn thing out.
That was me.
Oh,
Was that
okay.
you?
That was the first 06. That was the first 06 that had the problem.
Is that an oopsie?
Keep going.
Huh?
Is that an oopsie?
No,
There's
You
some
drill.
in it.
Well, there's a flange on the
right.
holding bracket, and what you gotta do is just grind it out a little bit.
Yeah, and what happened was my drill bit
Oh, yeah,
Bit.
grabbed and went all the way
Yeah.
through.
Oh, okay,
Right. See,
Went right through.
this is back in 2013,
yeah.
Yeah.
but that's what holds it in there.
Wasn't there something where you could fix it without taking it
This
out?
is called Florida corrosion, but it's also in California.
But you see, when you take that apart, there's two pieces of that
There's two
block.
halves, and the brake is on the other one.
And
On the
there
other
are
side.
wires on both sides of that.
Yep.
So that's how they program what gets power from where,
Go ahead, man.
is they put it together and they interlock.
We don't have corrosion in California,
Yeah,
otherwise
okay.
Brown would tax it.
Right. We're gonna say
Or
we don't
outlaw.
corrosion, but we have politics.
See, here's where I'm taking the line off.
Yeah.
This is the line that has the brake in it, and it comes up the other side. Oh, tidbit of wisdom. Before you take the broken wire out, take a black marker and mark which one of these it goes to. Because if you don't, you'll be like me and Sam.
I knew right where it
How
came
come I
out.
didn't take a
I knew
picture?
right where
Yeah.
it came out, but now they all look the same.
So I mark it with a little black marker so I don't know which one it is. Okay. You can see where it's broken. And I've had them ship them in and say, I can't find a brake. I go, okay. And I'll get under a magnifying glass and look, yeah, oh, there it is. Take a picture of it. There it is.
Now, most of the brakes are probably on the turbines,
All
right?
in the same
Same,
spot.
On the same
exactly the
spot.
same parts.
Every one of them is in the same spot.
So is this something I should expect to happen eventually?
If you've got an 05 or 06,
So it's-
not necessarily.
Right.
What, is this?
It's like
only
one
03s
run.
and 04s?
Huh?
Is this 05 and 06 and 03?
Yep. 03, 04, no, we
Not a
got
problem.
the good one, shade tree.
Wow.
We
How did
have
that
not
work?
experienced problems yet.
Better parts,
So that
right?
one-
Well, but
Alright,
it's like it was just one run of the
Is that the
blocks.
end line?
Oh,
I
okay.
think we're.
They had that one pusher that was dialed up just a
little too
extra
much.
too much click on there.
And they ran a whole run of blocks.
Yes.
And they
We
put them all
tried-
together and they all got shuffled before
Yes.
they got shipped.
Well, and they all
So you
work
never
as
know.
Exactly, because we tried
Tried
to, by VIN number,
Right.
or year,
Track.
or month, no rhyme or reason. So
Right,
we
the
gave
first
up on
ones are all 05s, so they thought, you know, it's all 05s. Then it happened to me at 70 miles an hour going through
And-
Pasadena.
it. Yes, I remember
Fast
that.
lane.
Sold was a late.
And my truck
Okay,
shot,
Lance, okay.
Oh, is that
Lance.
what happened? It just dies out?
it just quits.
Go ahead. This is the module that's on the back of the windshield wiper. Right here, and this is what gives you your delay. You gotta take the cowl off with the little pins. You guys know how to do that, right? Mine are on with Velcro. No. And all I do is, if you take that cowl and put your windshield wipers in the up position, you just slide it up and leave it on the windshield. Here's where your nodule is. It's on the passenger side.
Oh, and mine, and that's behind.
Now, there's supposedly a drain in there, which you may want to look one of these days and see if there's any leaves or crap in there. Because it will hold the water in there, and then the water goes inside the module, and water and electricity they don't like to get together there. But they'll tell you, oh, you need a new windshield motor and you can't get one.
Right.
Well, it's not, it's the module, not the motor. They have a locking device on the connector. So you want to get in there and clean that out. The one, I think I was telling you earlier, and you better watch for the corrosion. The one I was telling you earlier in Maggie Valley, He had some mice, little baby mice in there, and leaves, and because the overflow had got plugged with leaves, and then it went into the module, the electric plug, and that's the electric plug. This is on my truck again. And I use that spray, electronic, what do they call it?
CRC.
Yeah. Cleaned it all up, put it all back together, works fine.
It's $2.50 can of CRC.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Now the multifunction switch on the steering wheel is a lot more difficult to do than this. Because if your wipers are run on full speed, but won't go on the different speeds, it's that module on the bottom of it. You know, you say all of a sudden your AC isn't working or something's not going on. This is a recalibration of your AC actuator. You need two people to do this. You gotta push the three buttons, key in the off position. While holding the buttons, you put it in the run position.
Now rub your stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need two people.
They have a special tool for that pushes all three of those buttons at once. So
Is
you've
that
got
so?
two hands.
Then you push
It
it.
only costs you $600.
Yeah,
right.
So you wait 5 seconds and then press recirculate. And I suggest you turn your fan up to like 3rd or 4th speed, because it'll go through and you'll hear the doors open and close, the speed of the fan chain, so you can physically hear it doing the calibration. When it gets done, these start flashing, and it says you're done.
And hopefully while you're doing this, you don't break a tooth on one of the actuators.
Yeah.
We've reached the end of this electrical part 1 video. Please check out the other videos that came from this same tech session by looking at the playlist Chevy SSR Tech Session, August 25th, 2018. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're stopping by the channel for the first time and you want to, please subscribe. Click that bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. Please follow Retro Car Guy 530 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for taking the time to visit the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.